Thank you, Attorney Johnson. Give him a round of applause. He's going to be a great graduate from the law school after he graduates today. And maybe, just maybe, Congressman Green, he may graduate from the Thurgood Marshall School of Law. To President Hewitt, your most able interim president and a good Omega man. And to the Texas Southern Board of Regents, your great Texas Southern administration, and your great Texas Southern alumni. To my dear friend, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, and my brother, Congressman Al Green, and to you all, the Texas Southern University family, I stand to acknowledge the 2021 graduates of the great Texas Southern University. And I want to, before I begin my remarks, let the young people know that I'm going live on IG and Facebook at Attorney Crump. So when you get home and everything finally sets in that I really graduated, you go on IG and you watch yourself march across this stage. And I'm going on social media live because I want to have it documented to thank you young people representing the class of 2021 here at Texas Southern for joining the other young activists during this past year and serving as co-counsels to my legal team as we fought for justice for Ahmaud Arbery, who was lynched for jogging while black in Brunswick, Georgia. President Hewitt, I'm not talking about in 1940 and 1950, Congresswoman Lee, I'm talking about in 2020. They lynched this brother for jogging while black. And I want to thank you all for posting and tweeting and texting and marching and protesting for justice for our sister, Breonna Taylor, who was killed in the sanctity of her own home. And I would be remiss if I did not thank you all for being our co-counsels in the court of public opinion, for helping us to not only get a historic civil settlement of $27 million, the largest amount ever paid out in a pretrial civil rights police excessive use of force case in American history, but also for helping us initiate policy changes all across America as it relates to police reform, and most in particular, helping us to have the United States House of Representatives pass the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. And to you all, the graduating class of 2021, and to all your family and friends, I thank you all for being our co-counsel, and I'm sure Attorney General Keith Ellison will agree. It took all of us, black, white, brown, all Americans of goodwill, standing up and working together for us to get the landmark verdict in Minneapolis, Minnesota, convicting Derek Chauvin guilty, guilty, guilty for killing your homeboy, George Perry Floyd, only a rock throw away from Texas Southern in the CUNY Homes apartment complex where he was born and where he was bred. So this is for you, Texas Southern. This part of history is for you all, impacting the world, showing all of the world that not only does George Floyd life matters, not only do Black Lives Matter, but the lives right here in Houston 3rd Ward, life matters. So, brothers and sisters, my grandmother always said to me, baby, if you get a chance to speak truth to power, you do it. You do it. And as I look out at you amazing young people who are going to become an alumni within an hour of this great institution known as Texas Southern University, I want you to know that you all are powerful. I mean, you all can't even fathom how powerful, how resourceful, how skillful, how intellectual you all are going to be, how much you're going to influence the world. You all represent the best that we have to offer the future from our people. You here in Houston, Texas, are the cream de la crop. And don't you ever let anybody tell you differently, because people often ask me, Attorney Crump, what keeps you going in the face of all of this racism and this systematic racism, this discrimination, this oppression against Black people? What keeps you going, Attorney Crump? And what I tell them, it is the young people. When I look in my 8-year-old daughter Brooklyn's eyes and I see the hope and I see the optimism, when I look at you graduates, you young people who are about to change the world, and I see just how much potential you have, I know there is no way we can give up, because if we give up, that means we're giving up on you all. And you all, we can never give up on, because you all are worth the fight. You all are worth the fight. You all are our future, and we can never give up on our future. And I think about our ancestors who did not give up on us when they were in the cotton fields during slavery. And they dreamed, President Hewitt, they dreamed, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, they dreamed of a day where you all will be graduating from these great educational institutions with a baccalaureate. And they kept bending their back to pick that cotton because they knew a better day was coming for Black people in America. And you are that better day. You represent that better day. And Congressman Al Green and Dean of the Texas Southern Thurgood Marshall Law School, I remember in my first year of law school, they kept teaching us about precedents. And they kept saying, Ms. Tolan, that you have to base everything on precedents. It's all about precedents because we have to have the decisions and the rulings from yesterday be consistent with the verdicts of the day in the future and the rulings of the future. And now, Teslin Figueroa, I didn't accept that because I knew if we based everything on precedents, that the United States Supreme Court said that slavery was legal. And if we accepted that precedence, most of us would still be slaves. So I rejected that notion, but I understood what they were trying to teach us, that based on precedents, it is a good indicator of what is likely to happen in the future. And so I submit to you that based on the precedents of black people in America, based on the precedents of how black people overcame slavery, based on the precedents of how black people overcame the Middle Passage, based on the precedents of how black people overcame being defined as three-fifths of a human being at the founding of this country, based on the precedents of how black people overcame the Dred Scott decision that said there was no rights that a black person had that a white person was bound to respect, based on precedents of how black people overcame Reconstruction after the Civil War, based on precedents of how black people overcame Plessy v. Ferguson, based on precedents how black people overcame Jim Crow, and based on precedents how black people overcame his much younger, smarter son, Jim Crow Jr. Esquire, PhD, based on precedents. What I submit to you, Texas Southern, is no matter what they throw at us, black people, I know we're going to be all right. We're going to overcome it based on precedents of what our ancestors have overcome. And that's why I keep fighting, because I know that we will win this war. We will make sure that our children are more intelligent than their oppressors. And as I wrap up my address to you brilliant, marvelous graduating class, I want to remind you of what advice my mother told me, because I did grow up in government housing projects, Congresswoman Jackson Lee, very similar to George Floyd, and his family is represented here with us. My mother, who worked 2 jobs to make sure that me and my 2 little brothers, her 3 boys, had food on the table, a roof over our head, and hope in our heart. She would always tell me, baby, life ain't fair. Life is hard. You make it fair by what you bring to the table. And if you don't bring anything to the table, don't expect anybody to let you sit down at the table. And so I remember when I was sitting where you at today, graduates, and when I got my college degree, the first thing I said to my mama is, Mama, I'm bringing something to the table, because I'm bringing this education to the table. You all are bringing something to the table. Graduates, you are bringing education. And because my mother said, once you get it here, they can never take it from you. And so you thank your mama and fathers and your family for putting you in this position to always be able to bring something to the table. And she said, remember, baby, when you get at the table, you try to help bring others less fortunate than you to the table. And all of you remember your friends from high school and back from the community that were not blessed to go to college and get that college degree, where it's incumbent upon us to look out for them and help lift them up and have a place at the table for them. Because as the Chinese proverb says, education does no good if you keep it amongst the educated. So you take this great education from Texas Southern and you take it back home to the hood. You take it back home to your cousins, Junebug and Shaniqua, and you make sure that y'all come up together. Y'all come up like elevators together, quoting Outcasts. We're all in this together, brothers and sisters. And we can never, ever forget that. And we have to, as Congressman Al Green talked about, have courage. I leave you in conclusion with something I often quote, Ms. Tolan, and that is that we have to have courage and we have to be guided by our conscience. You see, Dr. Martin Luther King said that the coward will ask the question, is it safe? And then he said, expediency will ask the question, is it politically correct? And then he said, oh, vanity will come along and ask the question, is it popular? But Dr. King said, conscience will come along and ask the question, is it right? And Dr. King concluded, there comes a time when one must take a position that's neither popular or politically correct or not even safe. But there comes a time when one must take a position because their conscience tells them it is the right thing to do. I submit to you, Texas Southern, it is the right thing to do to stand up for our children, to speak up for our children, to fight for our children. Because if we don't fight for our children's future, we can't expect anybody else to fight for our children's future. We got to fight for our children's future until hell freezes over. And then, President Hewitt, we got to be ready to fight on the ice because our children have to know how much we believed in them, how much we believed in their future, how much we stood up for them. It cannot be any doubt where we stood. We were unapologetic in defense of black life and black liberty and black humanity. So I thank you, Texas Southern graduates, for fighting for our future. Our people's very future is dependent on your willingness to stand up. Thank you. God bless you. Congratulations, the class of 2021, the great Texas Southern University. Texas Southern, how much I believe in you. I don't want it to just be lip service. Everybody can talk the talk, but it's our actions that count. So I want to thank you all for allowing me to be your speaker. And in doing so, I understand and acknowledge that you all represent how we understand that you all represent the key to us continuing to achieve justice for our people. That is why I am proud to establish the Benjamin Crump Social Justice Endowed Scholarship here at Texas Southern. George Floyd grew up right across the street from here at CUNY Homes. Right now, there is a man or a woman like George with a lot of potential. They just have to be given the chance to live out the full destiny of that potential. And I pray that this scholarship will help them live up to that potential. Congresswoman Jackson Lee, this scholarship will help create new opportunities. And I'm so very proud that it will bear my name as part of the Texas Southern legacy. I present this check for $20,000 for the Ben Crump Social Justice Endowed Scholarship And I ask you all to join and match me in investing in the future of our children at Texas Southern.